Another 9/11, if you would, theme that I want to explore with you a little bit is terrorism. Just yesterday, we had this apparent domestic terrorist attack and assassination of a political figure, Charlie Kirk. Is the U.S. about to do something on the domestic terrorism front? Because I want to talk now in your hat as a counterterrorism expert.
The problems that we have in the United States about domestic terrorism, and I want to speak more broadly because when you move away from what the motive is for this violence, whether it's the conservative activist Charlie Kirk or Democratic state legislatures as in Minnesota or even just shoppers at a grocery store as in Buffalo, New York, or worshipers at a church or synagogue. The challenge is to think of these as how do we deal with active shooter situations, regardless of what their motive or ideology might be. One of the things that was quite noteworthy was when the First Lady Melania Trump came out a few weeks ago with the idea that we need to do more to try to help identify what is it that turns individuals into these killers, these assassins, these active shooters. And this actually harkens back to an idea that I had worked on with a former Trump administration Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Counterterrorism. There are programs in the United States that have shown real promise in terms of how you help somebody who knows of someone who is troubled or who has really concerning thoughts that they're turning into actions. And these kinds of programs try to divert them away from violence and into mental health or other kinds of programs where they can get help. After the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, a group of us at the Atlantic Councils tried to figure out what would it take to come up with these programs that have proven successful in pilot projects across the country in states like...
How does it work? I mean, does someone call, say, I'm worried about my neighbor or something?
Yes, that's exactly right. So one of the problems is people will not turn in their neighbor, their brother, their son to law enforcement because they're afraid he'll just be locked up. Or he won't get the help that he needs if he's just incarcerated, and he'll come out after some sentence and then do it again.
I see.
And so these things can't be solved in advance by a law enforcement only solution. So a lot of communities in the last 10 years have set up these programs that give everyone a phone number to call if you're concerned. And the call goes to not a law enforcement official, although these people do work with law enforcement, but it includes social workers, psychologists, people from the community. Often in some cities, it's former gang members. But you treat this as a public health problem, not as a criminal justice problem.
Interesting.
And these programs have been successful at taking people who are headed down what is clearly the wrong path and getting many of them the help that they need. They're not cheap, but they're not horribly expensive when you consider the damage done, not just economic damage, but the damage to the American psyche after something like Charlie Kirk or the Minnesota legislators.
Tom, talk about another phenomenon which is related to terrorism, really, which is maybe state terrorism when a state like Iran takes hostages, or Hamas takes hostages. Is this a growing phenomenon? This is something you've also thought about.
Yes.
Tell me how you address that.
So there was a fundamental change in the U.S. approach towards hostage negotiations, the start of which was recognizing this was a serious problem that needed a major response. And certainly my hope, especially after we can get the war in Gaza wound down and I hope establish some kind of more lasting peace, is that countries step back and realize that hostage taking is a threat to everyone, and that there needs to be more of an international effort, not just to delegitimize the practice of hostage-taking, but to set up active programs that try to bring people out, and try to, without doing the things like paying ransoms that encourage more hostage-taking.
Right.
And just
how do you stigmatize it internationally so that countries, are not encouraged to do it?
Well, so one of the things, ironically and obviously, is look at the way that terrorism is now a universally condemned label.
Right.
And we see governments, including the United States, that label things that weren't the classic textbook definition of terrorism, an act of violence or the cyber equivalent by non-state actors carried out for political purposes. That's the 3x5 card definition that we all used to do. And now we apply that label to a host of things that would not have qualified as terrorism like, 2 decades ago.
What?
Well, narcotics trafficking.
Right.
The Trump administration has designated some major gangs and narcotics traffickers as foreign terrorist organizations.
Right.
And Mexico as well.
And so that allows the U.S. to use the authorities under counterterrorism fighting against these units.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also the stigmatization.
Right.
And if there ever was a proof that the stigmatization works, it's the fact that everyone wants to call their enemies a terrorist.
Right.
And that's the first label that gets thrown out in places where it otherwise wouldn't have been appropriate.
Right.
But the hostage taking needs to have the same degree of opprobrium attached to it, so that there is seen to be no legitimacy in doing this kind of thing. I mean, just to take the case of Hamas and Israel, yes, there were condemnations across the board by so many countries right after October 7, 2023. But in terms of practical steps, like denying hostage takers the ability to run political offices, or denying them the ability to have bank accounts or to move money around.
Yes.
All of these kinds of effects.
And that's not happening right now?
Well, it is, but it isn't. Some of these groups are terrorist groups, and so
Hamas, for instance.
Yes, that allows certain actions to be taken. But it's the universality of it that is both important and powerful. Terrorists get almost no support unless there's some bizarre circumstance of ethnicity or otherwise. We need to see how hostage-taking entities, governments and non-governments, need to have that same kind of opprobrium. Iran, for example, gets condemned by American officials every time an American is held hostage there. But you don't see this coming up in every single discussion with European leaders, even when some of their own citizens are taken prisoner in Iran.
So there needs to be an international convention to...
Well, ironically, there actually is an international convention, but it's toothless.
Okay.
It looks good on paper. Well, I think amending it is one of the things that can and should be looked at. But what you really need is the commitment, is the political will to say that we're actually going to work to force countries that hold hostages to stop taking them.
Who does that other than Iran right now and some terrorist groups?
Well, the United States has said that there are American citizens in Venezuela who are held, and there's a whole legal process that the United States has, legal and political process the United States has to designate what are called people of concern, which unfortunately doesn't really have much oomph to it.
No.
And so what you need is a generally agreed upon postcard definition, like the definition of terrorism, that everyone can agree to. And so somebody like a Brittany Griner, an athlete who had a small amount of a medical, what she said was a medical drug, but nevertheless gave Russia the excuse to take her prisoner even though she was supposed to be playing on a professional basketball team there.
Right.
And those kinds of events have often a criminal color to them, even though what they're really being done is for political
purposes.
And
great idea.
Yeah, and so the idea has to be to end that kind of hostage taking, and whether that's done through having some international organization, to have some group like what we have in the United States for missing and exploited children, for example.
Right.
But there are respected groups that can, label hostage taking for what it is.
Right.
And then you need to have governments to mobilize international public opinion, so that those who take hostages suffer for doing so and realize that it is in their interest to stop doing it.